Hi, my name is Matthew Topham, and today we are going deep into the Industrial Revolution. Now today, we are going to look at the general negatives of the Industrial Revolution. Let's start with number 1. Working from other factories is exhausting. It causes long working hours, it has bad working conditions, and there are times that it causes illness and even death. There are cases that factory workers got caught by uncovered machinery, resulting to injury and even death. The dust and fumes from chemical factories can also harm a person's health. The Industrial Revolution was not a good time for people's health. Industrialization in modern societies attracts immigrants. It promises a good life, but not all were lucky. It causes overcrowded cities and slum areas. This is the second worst thing that the Industrial Revolution caused. One of the more obvious and general problems during the Industrial Revolution was industrialization in general. Industrialization comes with pollution. Factories, automobiles, and aircrafts produce unthinkable air pollution to some advanced cities in the world. Chemicals and waste that were not properly disposed caused water and land pollution. The condition of the environment is at stake because of the industrialization and is currently still a problem. That is number 3. And number 4. Some may not know, but some machines took the place of human labor, resulting to high unemployment rate for those people that lack the skills. And because of this, those who could not look for a better job to earn a living had to go to the dark side and commit crimes to support their family. And finally, another negative result of industrialization is that it brought a negative impact on culture. And culture is one of the most important things in the world. It had a negative impact on culture, values, and morality of mankind. Technology drives a shift in principles, beliefs, and faith. Just to think, there are hundreds of more. And now we are going to ask the people themselves. During the Industrial Revolution, there were so many negatives. The Industrial Revolution was a poor, rough, and very difficult time. So we're here today to discover and explain all the negatives of the Industrial Revolution, starting with the health workers. Alright, as health workers during the Industrial Revolution, what was the biggest negative or negatives?
During the Industrial Revolution, we, the health workers, would often work in poor conditions. The Industrial Revolution caused thousands of deaths from many diseases such as smallpox and cholera. These diseases ravaged throughout the world, killing and ruining people's lives. Many of us health workers would see hundreds of patients. We would fight to find a cure, but the diseases of this time were just too powerful.
These diseases spread like no other, and this was a huge problem. As cities grew in the Industrial Revolution, so did the population. The population grew so drastically that no one knew how to handle it, or what sort of health measures needed to be taken. As a result of the increased population, more and more people constantly caught diseases and different types of illnesses. With little knowledge at the time, it was thought that infectious diseases were caused by smell. This theory was accepted, and people disposed of waste into rivers and water sources.
This solved the smell problem, but only resulted with an outbreak in the cities of England. Disease, fecal matter, coming in contact with drinking water was infecting the people. The most common of these diseases were cholera and typhoid, which are infectious diseases most often associated with eating raw meats or feces. By disposing of all waste in the river, it made the disease more easily spread. In 1838, one of my good friends, William Budd, noted that if the excretion were spreading the infections, then isolating it would help the situation. He was credited for reducing of deaths from 2,000 in 1849 to 29 in 1866.
The diseases weren't the only problem for us citizens during the time. There was another big problem. During the Industrial Revolution, air pollution was a huge problem. Machines and factories were constantly burning coal, which resulted in poor air conditions. People believed that as long as the machines were constantly running and creating new things, everything was going along as planned. What they didn't think of, however, was the fact that over time the constant inhaling of these toxic gases would create disease and sickness.
In some cases, the sicknesses caused by the fumes would be severe, but in other cases, people died from diseases and viruses from these pollutants. The effects were similar of heavy smokers and coal miners. People were seeing problems such as asthma, lung cancer, and trouble breathing.
Overall, the quality of life for the doctors would be more intense and troubling with the sudden increase of medical problems. In terms of the citizens' health, the Industrial Revolution was a rough and difficult time. A time where thousands of people died and millions more suffered.
Oh my, that is horrific. Next, we're going to see how bad it was for the working class and the child laborers. So, as child laborers and being in the working class, what can you say is the worst thing about the Industrial Revolution? What was the biggest negative during the Industrial Revolution?
One of the negatives was how poorly treated workers were treated by the factory owners. If they tried to protest or stand up for themselves, they often received harsh physical and verbal punishment. Common punishment was to have weights tied around their necks and be forced to walk around for hours like that. This often resulted in major injuries and took a hard toll on the body. Workers who stood up to their bosses often lost their jobs, and that was something that most workers simply couldn't risk, so they wouldn't confront their owners about unfair treatment or poor pay. Working in factories was especially dangerous for children who, because they were small, worked in and around the machines to repair and clean them, often while the machines were still running. This put children at a high risk of injury, which was often very serious and even life-threatening. Workers during these times were also considered below and dirty the rest of the workers, so they were treated very poorly by the rest of society.
Okay, I see. That is truly horrible.
There are also very poor working conditions. They worked for very little, on average 4 to 8 pence a day. They would work up to 18 hours for a 6-day week. Children were often employed because they were cheap labor and they were rarely paid what adults were. Working conditions were very poor. Factories were dirty, cramped, and hot. Air quality was very bad due to all the factories and people who got sick very easily. Disease was easily spread from person to person because of the tight quarters, and because most workers were too poor to afford health care, they rarely got better and made other people sick as well.
Wow. That was a tough time. That was a tough time for those health workers and child laborers. Next, we move on to the Marxists.
Think about your new working conditions.
The new working conditions are a bit unfair.
Why would that be?
When the new factory was built, I relocated to the city in an attempt to make more money. However, now I'm here, I make less than I did while I was working in the fields.
So would you say that you have lost your basic rights and freedoms?
Yeah,
If you and your fellow workers were to say make the same amount of money as those who rule over you, do you think that life would be more fair?
definitely.
This just goes to show the Industrial Revolution was a truly negative time. There were so many bad things that went on during the Industrial Revolution for the health workers, the working class and child laborers, and the Marxists.